I think my sort of like secret mission is to try to create more fulfilling careers for people.
People should be finding opportunities to develop their leadership before they even move into a leadership position.
And if we can solve problems of people, we can really make a big impact.
Everyone's got a bad boss story. You know what? Someone might think you're the villain in their story as well.
Bad bosses are generally good people who are trying very hard. They're just misguided. Good bosses, they'll like go to bat for you, but they've got the juice to deliver too.
You're listening to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, a podcast that delivers value and offers up insight that'll help your credit union grow. ServiceStar has been consulting with credit unions for over 20 years, growing them in the areas of cultural development, leadership development, and management training. To learn more about what ServiceStar can do for you or your credit union, check them out at servicestarconsulting.com.
Albrecht, today's a special day.
We have an author on the podcast.
Yes. Tell us, Albrecht. Who is it?
Man, we got Joel. He's got 6.5 habits of what it looks like to be a bad boss, and I'm super excited about his energy. This man hails from Canada, but he's got a lot of fans in Germany, if you know what I'm talking about.
You will after this. And hey, if you have the ability to watch this as a video podcast, you should definitely watch as a video instead of listening to audio. And Albrecht, there were some really key things that he said that I thought was impactful. And at the end of the episode, we'll break it down. But there's a lot. This is how I want to say it. We teach this leadership stuff a lot. And sometimes it may come across a little monotonous, but hearing it said just a slightly different way could make all the difference in the impact for potential leaders. And that's why we brought Joel on. He's not in the credit union industry. He works with multiple industries. And the stuff he says, we're going to be able to tie directly to our Vertex emerging leaders, sales and service trainings, and what it looks like specifically in the credit union space. One of the things that I thought was very, very impactful, and we'll talk about it at the end, but is this idea of lighthouse versus disco ball. And that's near the end. And if you want to hear why I think it's impactful, stay tuned to the end when I debrief it. Albrecht, what about you? What was a key thing that Joel talked about? Joel Hilchey talked about that landed with you.
Yeah, that's why I like old research books, because leadership is leadership and leaders aren't born, they're made. And so the more you can kind of dig into the contents of books like What Got You Here Won't Get You There, or Patrick Lenciosci's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I mean, listen, these books have Motorola pagers in them. I mean, they are so dated, and yet the leadership concepts are so true to us in 2025. And the same is true when you get a generalist on, like Joel, who can talk roundabout in multiple different chasms of leadership, how the same general principles will apply in a specific credit union middle manager role that's joining our Emerging Leaders program. So you should definitely tune in. Keep your video watching on, because this podcast is fire.
Ryan, roll the tape. All right, Joel, I'm super excited to have you here. How you doing today, man?
I'm great. It's great to be here.
Yes. Awesome. Well, hey, this is what I want to do. So I've been making it a point, and Albrecht, you've seen this, but it's been developing with each guest we bring on. There's two things I want to do. The first thing I want to do is I want to read, I'm calling it the brag sheet that I've made, because I want our listeners to know who you are, what perspective are you coming in with this leadership insight, and let's just reflect on it a bit. So, this might be the part where people might like cover their eyes or feel awkward, but no, embrace it. This is stuff that you've accomplished and done. So here we go.
Let's read this brag sheet. I can't wait to find out what I've done.
Yeah. And imagine if some of this was surprising to you. Well, you know what? Before we even get, before I read it, how do you say your last name?
Hilchey. Hill like a small mountain, and chi like, I don't know what it's
chakra
like.
And stuff.
Find
your chi.
Like Hilchey.
There you go.
Joel Hilchey. So it's great to be here. Yeah, everybody gets it wrong. If you forget, I won't judge.
All right. Hey, I do get names wrong. Here we go. The brag sheet. Joel Hilchey is a keynote speaker, author, and fun at work expert who helps leaders build cultures where people do their best work and enjoying doing it. He has delivered over 2,000 plus presentations across sectors, blending research-backed leadership lessons with interactive moments that boost psychological safety and engagement. Joel is the founder and CEO of Beanstalk Creative, a studio that produces experiences, I like that. And media for leadership and culture building. His work equips leaders to get more done and have more fun. With practical focus on meetings, feedback, recognition systems, he's also known for high energy stagecraft, think juggling, and audience participation. And actually what I'll say to that is I was watching your video of the mousetrap. And man, that got my heart beating fast. And you do this to make serious ideas stick. His latest book, The 6.5 Habits of Highly Defective Bosses, distills 2 decades of culture building into a field guide for everyday managers. Joel,
Ooh.
Does this surprise you as you hear this?
I sound great on paper, huh? That is awesome. Wow. That is, I realized I was starting my 20th year in the world of training and development. And
you've been doing this for 20 years. Okay.
Yeah. So I studied engineering as a student, and as a kid, I just figured, well, I was good at math and I like to play with Lego, and I assumed I would study engineering and do engineering work and, have an engineering job and live the dream. And I did it right up until the live the dream part. And then I realized I was kind of surrounded by people living for the evenings and weekends, or at least I was projecting. Probably they were having a great time, and I was living for the evenings and weekends at that point. And I didn't last long in the corporate world, So for me, I found myself really quickly going into the world of training and development, which I'd always loved. I loved teaching. I loved. I was an entertainer as well as a juggler.
Yeah.
But so
that was like real. You actually do juggle. Okay.
Yeah. That's real. And then I knew a few magic tricks, and so I could bring this like edutainment to the stage. And I started originally on actually Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, was teaching those. And then along the way, we built this team, and we do training mostly in education. And we've got this team, we're not a big team. We have sort of 5 full-time and another dozen contract and part-time staff. But I realized that that's actually really analogous, or really it's familiar territory for a lot of managers and leaders. And people are saying, wow, you've got this amazing culture on your team, because we've got entertainers and circus artists and acrobats and actors and things, but we had this culture that people love to be part of. And I, as I was talking about it with friends and colleagues, they said, wait, what do you do to do that? How do you do that? And I would mention these things, and they said, wait, tell me more about that. And I realized we had stumbled into some really awesome practices, but I have been kind of trying to combine all this, entertainment and education world for now 20 years. And I guess if I have a thesis, if I do, I want to help people do better, but because my career path was not as I expected it would be, I think my sort of like secret mission is to try to create more fulfilling careers for people, to help people find more fulfilling careers. And bosses have become part of that journey. Management training and culture is a huge part. I don't need to tell you guys that. That's what you do. Also, it's so powerful for how people experience their day to day.
Yeah. Wow. So with this, and you've touched on it lightly already, we read the brag sheet. You're thinking about this whole journey that you've gone through from engineering to building this very unique education / entertainment. And then people coming to you saying, wait, how is your culture the way it is, and how can we replicate that?
Yes.
And I want us to rewind, but also look ahead. And here's the question I have for you. Who is Joel Hilchey? Who was Joel Hilchey? And who is Joel Hilchey becoming?
Oh, I like it. So Joel Hilchey was a really capable solopreneur. And Joel Hilchey is becoming a CEO. And for me, this journey, especially over the past 8 years when our team really started to grow, has been about saying, okay, this isn't about just me anymore. As a speaker, it's often about, the person. But with our training company, it was about how can I take whatever relationships and trust that I've built with people, and how do I kind of expand that or extend that onto the team? And how do I figure out what are the things that people are liking, and how do we replicate that? It's an issue of scaling. It's an issue of bringing people in and all the way through, I guess the thing that's constant is I still have this engineer's mind, that I learn to solve problems, but I think people are fascinating. And if we can solve problems of people, we can really make a big impact.
Yeah. I think that's fascinating. I wasn't expecting that. So the solopreneur to CEO,
Yeah.
I want you to tell me, when was the moment where you decided, well, before I even ask that, I hear a lot of people say there's a shift that needs to happen with leaders where you stop working in the business or working for the business and you start working on the business.
Yes.
When was that moment for you? What happened? What was that? Was it a big light bulb event? Was it just little things over time?
Yeah, it was little things over time at first. There was one, so I became a boss by accident, which I hired somebody on purpose. That part's on purpose, but
Yeah.
I,
Who's this? Yeah.
I became a boss without really realizing that I was a boss. And the moment that it was about 3 years in, and my employee, my assistant, came to me. We had a few people working for us at that point. And my assistant came to me because somebody else on the team had said something inappropriate, and it sort of was off-putting to her. And it was the type of thing that needed to be handled. And I had sort of lousy answers to the whole thing. Like, don't we have a policy for this? No, a policy? I don't know. No. Well, you think we should do something about this? She said. Oh, yeah, I definitely think we should do something about it. Well, are you going to do something about it? Yeah, I'm going to do something. Like, I had lousy answers to this thing, right? And it was the next day. We made a plan. We were fine. But the next day, debriefing with my wife, I had this realization that my assistant had come to me not as my assistant, but because I was her employer, right? Like, I was responsible for her career. And that was the moment where I'm like, oh, like, I'm the boss. Now, I had another moment where a person on a team, I brought in another trainer that we were helping. It was trainer number 3. And I said, well, maybe we should do some training. And this guy said, like, well, what are we supposed to do? Like, do we have a mission statement? Like, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, yeah. Like, I hadn't thought of any of this stuff, right? I was busy. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they're just trying to do a thing, and they realize they need some help to do it, to get it done.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people probably in the, the business world, probably the credit union world, I don't know if people are like gunning for management positions as much as like, well, I got into this and it's stable. And then like their boss retired and they'd been there a few years, and people say, well, you seem to know what you're doing. Why don't you lead the team? Or you've got a good relationship with people. You're the technical expert, or you just, have a good understanding of things. And all of a sudden you're a team lead, you're a boss, you're an executive. And some places do have very regimented training programs. Many places do not. Something like 80% of people identify as accidental bosses, the people in leadership, 80% of those people. And that, to me, was wild because it resonated because I was an accidental boss. I wanted to help people save money. You've got money. You don't want to just like burn through your money. Whoa, is this? Wow, it's hot.
Yeah.
It's real. I wanted to help people like save money, and people have goals, but I was just this guy who was like trying to help out however I could. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, now I'm responsible for a team. What's that like? And what do we need to put in place? So yes, that phrasing you used of like not just working in your business, but working on your business, that's a hard transition. There are a few things that happen. I've heard so many good advice over the years, so much good advice. But one of the things, like, one of the first hard things is like delegate at all, and you realize, okay, I'm going to delegate the stuff I'm not good at. But then an even harder point at some point in the leadership journey is people have to delegate things that they are good at, and that's another hard step for people. So as far as I can tell, the journey doesn't end. It certainly has not ended for me yet. But it's a really cool journey to be on.
Yeah. So before we're going to go after we take a break, we're going to go into your book and talk about these perspectives. And what I want to point out to our listeners is we've got Joel here who's got an outside perspective, outside of the credit union. And sometimes, our CEO, he says, what's another way to look at it? And we need to find another way to look at it, find another way to say it, another way to approach it, where things start clicking. You go, oh, that's what I need to do. So I'm really excited to dive into some concepts of the book. But one of the things that you gave me a different perspective on, and Albrecht, I want you to touch on what we teach. You said that 80% of managers are accidental bosses. Yes. And Albrecht, I feel like this aligns with some of our own research, which was, how long does it take for leadership training in the credit union industry? What was it that we did with our studies?
Well, when you've got the average manager going 10 years before they actually receive management training, it creates a lot of dumpster fires, so nice. we want managers to be on fire, but not create dumpster fires. And so I think that's where, we're strategically aligned, because this podcast is fire. I mean, quite literally, we're setting it on fire. So that's very, very exciting.
That's great.
I was hoping you were going to shoot it.
I need that fire extinguisher over on my end here. That's good. Yeah,
you definitely do. You definitely do.
10 years.
After
is
the
that right?
Podcast, I want to know the hair plugs you use for all the burnt hairs that you have from all the training you do.
Right. 10 years. Actually, I thought it was 11, but it's definitely 10. It's somewhere between 10 and 11 of managers do not get any formal leadership training. 10 and a half. Like 6 and a half, 10 and a half.
And, yeah. At that point, you're splitting hairs, burning hairs, whatever. At that point, it should be 0. Year or half.
Yeah, exactly.
Perhaps. Yeah. So 10 or 10 and a half or 11 is 10 or 10 and a half or 11 too many.
Yeah, way too many. And what I would argue is people should be finding opportunities to develop their leadership before they even move into a leadership position as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, Joel, let's dive into your book and some of these key points and how credit union leaders can use this.
Love it.
Learn how to deploy skills based on academic level research that all leaders need to level up in the credit union industry at our Vertex Live nationwide workshops. Hi, I'm Scott Albrecht, host of the Credit Union Leadership Podcast. When I'm not recording podcasts for this fantastic forum, I'm in front of live online audiences in an 11-part series called Vertex Live nationwide. Our trainers here at ServiceStar love this course. It improves management performance. Our partnership with the Filene Research Institute showed what middle managers do to rise above the rest as we surveyed managers in the credit union industry that are outperforming their peers and improving employee engagement at their credit unions. So if you want to see increased member service, if you want to see increased profitability, make the investment that pays dividends in your others. Because if you improve your manager's ability to delegate, who does that impact? It's really the people they delegate to. The investment in leadership training through Vertex Live nationwide is the best way to learn how to develop skills that will improve management performance, employee engagement, member service, and profitability. Check out our events page on our ServiceStar Consulting website for more information on this great workshop and cohort launching upcoming this year.
All right. So, Joel, we're back here and now we're talking. Tell us the title of your new book.
The 6.5 Habits of Highly Defective Bosses. Serious Lessons for Accidental Managers.
And very applicable with what we just ended on earlier of 80% people are accidental bosses, takes people 10 and a half years before any formal leadership training. And it sounds like with you transitioning from working in your business to working on your business, these are 6 habits that maybe you realized maybe other people were doing that you could have been victim of yourself, that you said, I need to make a difference here. Totally. So tell me, what prompted this book? Why now in your career? Because you said you've been doing this for 20 years.
Yes. So as I've worked more in the world of associations and corporations, the problems that come up, I noticed they were just repeating. People have the same sorts of issues. And from a culture perspective, leadership is like hugely impactful. So at some point, oh gosh, more than 5 years ago, I said, oh, this is a funny idea. 6.5 habits of highly defective bosses. It just sounds like it's coming up short. Everything it's not quite there. The half habit, if you're wondering, is consistently inconsistent, which it didn't feel worthy of full habit status to be inconsistent, anyway. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
but as I started, talking about these, I wrote a little article series a bunch of years ago, and then I brought it back. Said this should be a book. And there's a funny thing that happens when you ask people about their bad bosses. It's sort of a joining on story. Like everybody wants to share the thing, and it became a little challenge to see like, oh, do people's bad boss stories align with these habits? Like, are what people saying about their bosses actually the things? So I didn't start by making up the habits. I started with a preliminary list, but over the course of writing the book, some of them changed a little bit as I sort of reworked. It's like, oh, this is a problem for people. So I should ask you, like, have you had bad bosses before, or maybe you've had great bosses, but or have you seen bad bosses? Do you have any bad boss stories? It's kind of fun to hear them.
The first thing I think of real quick, and then we'll go into some of these stories, is I think of almost flipping the table on it. It's all right. Everyone's got a bad boss story. And what I would say to people that are aspiring and emerging leaders is, you know what? Someone might think you're the villain in their story as well. As we're working hard to develop and grow, because we're continually getting better, someone might be saying you're a bad boss. And it's like, I thought when I was a boss, everyone would love me. And part of it is not necessarily. Being a leader is tough. Great leaders have teammates that complain about them and say bad boss stuff. But
super hard. Yes. Maybe I'll add one thing in there, and then I want to hear, Scott, a story from you too. But most bad bosses are actually great people. Bad bosses, this is one of the takeaways that I've had in writing this book, is bad bosses are generally good people who are trying very hard. They're just misguided. They've never thought about, well, how do I do this? What is the right approach for this? And so they're trying, but often they're trying with sort of bad advice in the back of their mind. A lot of us default to how we were raised as kids, and we imagine a boss to be something like a parent, but maybe, the parent that we wish we'd had or something. I don't know. But we've got these ideas, and it doesn't always work out smoothly. Like, I don't know if that resonates at all, or if you've seen that. Scott, do you have a bad boss story, or a time like, when you were a bad boss? That's the other thing, is that it is terrifying. I had a moment of realization when I was writing this book. It's like, if I am writing a book about bad bosses, and I am one, my whole team is going to quit. Like, this is going to poetic justice. They're just going to like, oh, this guy is a total loser. And then he has the nerve to write a book about being a bad boss. And he thinks he's, oh gosh, I was like, oh, this is terrifying.
Maybe it would be validating. You'd be like, well, this really is a bad boss. I know.
Yes. Scott, what have you had a boss, somebody that sticks in your mind? What'd they do? Was there a moment? Often there's like a moment where like, they did this, or I always felt like this around them.
Yeah. How much time do you have? How much time do you have? I mean, so I'm going to name drop here for a little bit. First boss right out of no, I'm joking.
Yeah.
Tom Wolfe was a guy who liked to interview people, and he came up with this term, information compulsion. And he said, without information compulsion, this compulsion to share information that otherwise people wouldn't know, there'd be no stories. And so that's really where like journalists kind of feed off of this kind of need to share with people what you don't know about so-and-so. And so the fact that you were able to use that kind of build a reference point for your book is great. It's genius, because people do want to share with other people things that they don't know necessarily. Maybe it's your neighbor and their lawn care maintenance techniques, or somebody else's workout regime. But like, we're just kind of filled with people who want to share. They have this compulsion to share information. And so, I want to think back to the things that I've said in trainings that I'll say here on the podcast. And I'm sure I've said on the podcast before, but I preach from the pit of despair, not from the pulpit. Like, I like to say, I've already been burned by the stove. I'm here to teach you not to touch the stove, and try to hopefully get you ahead of the stove before you get into a situation where you're in the same situation that I was in. And honestly, I treated my employees like guinea pigs, not knowingly. I thought I had it all put together, but really I was just trying stuff. And so going without management training is a problem. And I think it starts with yourself identifying that I'm not equipped, nor am I ready to be a manager. I think it takes a lot of guts and courage to tell your manager who just hired you to be a manager, hey, I need help. I need training. I need support. But I also think it has some self-accountability, self-discipline principles where I should probably go buy a book. I should probably go get this 6.5 habits of, bad
Everybody should
bosses.
in triplicate.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe get 17 books.
Yeah.
17 and a half
Six and a
books.
half. Six
That's
and a half
right.
books.
Yeah,
That's right. You said something there, that sort of initial awareness. My journey was like, I didn't even realize I was the boss at the beginning. Even if I knew, and eventually I did, to go through and think about, so what does that mean? What is my primary role as a boss? And I think there are actually 4. I don't know if this is worth talking about. Habit 1, I found, is sort of a good overview habit, because it's called function forgetting. And this is where people don't realize that they're neglecting a really important part of the job. For those of you who are watching here, so we can draw this out. But we're gonna have a 2x2 matrix, and you've got, say, short term on one side and long term on the other, and then you've got project focused, or we could call it like task focused, and you've got people focused on the other dimension. So the way I think of this, you could imagine 18 different functions, probably break it up, but short term project based is the one that everyone is familiar with, and this is like project management. Okay, so that we have to get things done, but it's not just our tasks. Now we're helping the team get things done. But long-term project-based thinking is more to do with strategy, and this also becomes your role as a team lead. And so now we're not just saying, are we doing things? We get to ask, are we doing the right things? And that sometimes depends on the bigger picture. And depending on how high up you are in the chain, your look at what strategy means, or your vision of strategy will be different. But managers have some responsibility to say, is our team working on the right projects given our larger goals? From a people perspective, short term, we're really looking at like the team dynamics. So you could imagine, are people getting along? Are people working well together? Yeah. And all of a sudden people are coming to you. People said, oh gosh, I was a manager. People came to me and said, oh, this person said this thing. This person's not doing their work. And they're looking at me as the boss to do something about it. I want to, well, did you talk to them? I don't know what to do. You're the colleague, but you're the team lead. So you get to have a role in that. The one that most people forget about in general, people generally forget about the people side, if we had to generalize. But the last one, the long-term people focused, this is career development. And these conversations are extra hard for new leaders, especially because they feel often like they're coaching someone out of their team. They're like, where do you want to be in 3 years or 5 years? Or what skills do you want to learn? And a lot of the times those conversations bring up things that won't happen in that immediate team environment. Somebody says, well, I want to learn about this skill or that skill. And they say, oh gosh, we don't do that here. Yeah. Now, the managers, the rookie managers might say, oh, I just don't want to talk about that because I need to keep this person. But here's the sort of mental shift that has happened with all the new, or all the sort of more experienced managers that I've talked with. They say, no. People are having that thought process in their own mind anyways. Your choice as the team lead is, do you want to be part of the conversation, or do you want to stick your head in the sand and pretend that it's not happening?
Truth is undefeated. Yeah.
They're deciding, where do we go from here? And gosh, I have a section in the book for each habit called complaints and confessions, where, but my confession of this is that my first assistant, after 2 years of working with me, told me that she was leaving, and it sort of happened at not a great time. And I was kind of surprised by it, but I shouldn't have been, because she was a part-time person and I never once asked, so like, do you see yourself being in this role for another year or 2 or 8? Yeah. I just sort of assumed that it would stay the same. It's just a bad assumption in general. So as a manager, you want to think the long-term development of the individuals on your team. That's actually good for the team sustainability as well, to have those conversations.
Man, really good stuff, Albrecht. I'm already thinking a lot of this stuff with leaders we develop in our Vertex program, which is it's like 10 to 11 courses. We meet every other week to develop leaders. And I love seeing it written out like this with people on project. Albrecht, what are some of the things you're thinking of that relates to this and how credit union leaders should be developing?
Joel, I want to tap your engineering brain. Okay, so
Yeah.
we've got some vertices here.
Nice.
Let's turn this bad boy into a scatter plot. If you were to hand this out to every person at your seminars, webinars, etc., and you're to have them take the highlighter or a pen or a marker and just stab the corner of the quadrants that they feel like they belong in most of the time, what would you
Yes.
say the participants in your seminars and webinars would put the majority of the scatter plot dots?
Yes, they're down in the project management a lot. So lots of dots down here. They're occasionally in the strategy world, and they're, when necessary, in the team dynamics world, like putting out fires in the team dynamics world. That's the average, I would say. So they forget about career development entirely, team dynamics as needed. My suggestion for what to do is to get these things on your calendar. So project management meetings, they're going to be weekly or bi-weekly, probably, if you're working on things. That's the normal part. Everybody knows that. Strategy things, there's a reason that people do quarterly strategy retreats. It really helps to get out of the day-to-day, to think out of the day-to-day. So having a facilitated meeting, just going to a separate spot somewhere that's not the office necessarily, or clearing the schedule. It's so hard to do that, but it's really important to do that for the strategy time. The team dynamics meetings, I like to say annual, but actually daily. As part of a conversation with an employee, with a team member, you want to be asking formally at least once a year, in my opinion, are there any issues on this team that I should know about? But you probably want to have your radar kind of tuned to that stuff all the time, because you certainly don't want to wait 11 months to deal with a personnel issue. If you sense there's some disagreement or some tension between people, you want to deal with that as quickly as possible. And then the career development conversations, my suggestion is sort of semi-annual. So like probably one fulsome conversation each year, and then another one about halfway through the year, about 6 months later, like a check-in. Get that stuff on your calendar. For me, it is hard to find time. When is it today's priority to talk about the 5-year career development of, your newest employee? Like, it's hard to find those times. So you just have to block the time on your calendar. And that might mean for some managers that they actually need to do less of the production work themselves, because they're putting more focus on the people and the team.
That's the whole point of a scatter plot, right? Where are we missing opportunities? So
Yes.
based on these data that you've gotten from observations, what are some of the problems? I know you gave us the solutions, but what are some of the problems that could arise from maybe missing a quadrant?
Yeah. In the career development part, people leave early. People leave unexpectedly. You also miss opportunities to help people shape their skill sets. So people want fulfilling work. Everyone wants to learn and grow, whatever that means for them. Some people want to totally change paths. Some people just want new types of projects or new areas of responsibility. You want to know that as a manager, because then you can create the opportunities for them. People are going to work hardest and most productively when they're enjoying themselves, when it's just matched with that right skill level for them. Nobody wants to do boring work that they've done a bazillion times. If you ignore the strategy stuff, you end up being super productive and running in maybe the wrong direction. And so you're efficient, but not effective. If you're not good at the project management type skills, then people on the team tend to feel scattered themselves. So they tend to feel like, I don't know what's going on here. And as the leader, you're sort of creating that. Habit 3 is hassle making. And good bosses are great at kind of removing the obstacles that all those little nuisances. People told me stories of, I don't know if this is a credit union thing, the technology. People will be working on these old computers, like, these old shoddy computers, I can't get in. I don't have the password for this thing. And it's like, these little things. Somebody actually told me a story, which I loved. They worked for a municipality and they had those old cathode ray tube monitors. This is several years ago, but there was a time when the sun shone in through one of the windows
No.
and they couldn't see their screens, and they requested new screens. They requested they couldn't rearrange things. And so they just like took their coffee breaks twice a year at the times when like the sun was shining onto the screens. She said one person made a little cardboard box window thing to try to see, like, how much of a nuisance, like how much of a hassle is that, right? And the boss, I talked to somebody in investment banking the other day, and he said, like, good bosses, they'll like go to bat for you, but they've got the juice to deliver too. Like you need to be able to deliver for your people. They're trying to get stuff done. Help them get stuff done, especially your A players, your high performers on the team. You want to let them fly, and being slowed down is not what they want. I don't know if that's some of the issues that come up there.
What I heard you say is you want to be David Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
David Hasselhoff. You got to bring the juice.
That's good. Yeah.
All right. And actually, you know what? While we're going, solution for you, potential manager out there with light problems. Let's be night riders, and then you don't have a sun problem.
Yes. Yes.
Suggest that, dude. Have you thought about working at night?
Yeah. It's so the simplest solution sometimes, there are so many little things that can get in the way. How many times have we said like, I don't have the permission to do the thing with this file, or I have to call 3 layers. And sometimes bureaucracy is necessary, but employees get frustrated when they don't understand the reasons for it. Mm-hmm. The weird thing is there's often good reasons for the hassles that are in place, but if people don't understand the reasons, then it feels like pointless annoyance.
Yeah.
Bringing up a bunch of generational quotes from the 80s that I'll lose half the audience on, but you know what? Listens in Germany just went up 10%. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
Where's my Hasselhoff friends at? All right.
Is that where he's from?
No, he's got a big fan following in Germany, apparently.
There you go.
Wow. It sounds like you're a super fan, Albrecht. Joel, this is some fascinating stuff, some really good perspective. And I want to wrap it up to be respectful of time. But looking at these 4 quadrants of people, projects, here we talk about the people process and the operations process. And it's great to see it even more defined with these 4 quadrants. And this may tie in, it might be a little different, but in your book, you end off with finding at max 3 priorities as a leader. And I want to tie this into what you talk about, lighthouse versus disco ball. So with everything we're talking about with people and projects, and man, there's so much stuff on the to-do list, I can't say joking because it's serious, but after the strategic planning sessions happen once a year, you get a bunch of stuff on the to-do list. Explain this lighthouse versus disco ball.
Sure. Metaphor. So the word priority, until, I don't know, sometime in the 18th century or some time ago, a long time ago, when the word priority came about, it meant the thing that comes before all others. There could only be one such thing. Yeah. And then it kind of got co-opted by the business terminology to say like, the most important things, the important projects or the important things. And that's fair because most of us do live in a world where we've got multiple priorities. We've got multiple things that are important to us, but it's very challenging to make progress on 17 things. Like most of the times, I invite everyone to reflect. Think of the times when you have made significant progress on something. For me, that happened when I basically ignored a lot of the other stuff that I was supposed to do and just did this one thing. And then I made good progress on that. And then I set that aside for a while and I did a different thing and I made good progress on that for a while. The issue that comes up, so you want to be a lighthouse, a shining beacon of one point, not a disco ball with a bazillion sparkly objects scattered across the room. That's the metaphor. Be a lighthouse, not a disco ball. Ignore the bit of the metaphor that a lighthouse is actually spinning around and providing a moving, it's a single beacon.
They both spin.
Yes. Go with intuitively. It's let's not judge our metaphors. Making the best metaphor was not my first priority. So, okay, maybe. So, but yeah, this is, it comes from habit 6.5, consistently inconsistent. When people try to do too many things, everyone is confused about what matters most, because real life involves making tough trade-offs. And often at these strategy retreats, what happens is we get a big to-do list, but not strategic clarity. Strategic clarity comes from saying, we're not going to do these things. We are going to do this small number of things. And my suggestion is maximum 3. Now you could have within that a number of, okay, we've got 3 bins perhaps, and there's a number of to-dos or specific items within each strategic priority. But even that, I mean, if you've ever read a strategic planning document, and as soon as you get up to, I don't know, 5 things, and each thing has, 7 parts, and this one, except this one, it's got 17 parts. You lose, wait, what are they even saying here? What are they actually focused on? And so I think it's really wise for leaders to help clarify what matters most for our team, because people want to do a good job. You can, as soon as you've got clarity on what matters most, now you can give better feedback about it, and people are clear on it. Now you can give clearer communication. This is actually a hassle thing. Fuzzy expectations are a form of hassles, and they lead to micromanagement, because when you haven't clarified what matters to people, it's really hard to be trusting that they're going to deliver for you. You have to get super clear yourself, so you can say, this is what really matters. However you get there is fine, but now we all know here's what the deliverables are, the metrics. Now we can have high expectations. So habit 2 is mediocrity mongering. A players don't want to work in a culture of mediocrity. They want to succeed, and they'll do that when their expectations are clear. The last thing is habit 4, the one that I haven't mentioned. I guess I didn't mention bully bossing. That's habit 6. That's actually the minority, where people just use power dynamics to try to get what they want, fear and power dynamics. But that's the minority of bosses. Habit 4 is credit stealing and finger pointing. And this is where bosses hoard the credit, but give out the blame to other people when things don't go well. And of course, great leaders, so basic, great leaders share the credit and take the blame when things don't go well. They say, the buck stops with me. I should have been on that more. Unlike the cartoonish villains, who send out their crony sidekicks and then get mad at them. Well, you fool, you foiled my plan. But of course, when it's going well, they are the greatest, hero in the world or whatever. Great leaders, they kind of set clear goals and then help the team achieve that. I know that sounds like a platitude, but in order to do that, it's the nuance, and then they get to share and celebrate the credit and the individual contributions along the way. And when things don't go well, at least they were clear on what the thing was that they were supposed to be doing to begin with. So there's so much in this, but I want to end with a big picture thought, which is to say the leader really sets the culture. And if the leader is having fun and can sort of combine what's fun and meaningful for people, then they'll create a team that works hard, that's creative, that's collaborative, that's open-minded, and that's resilient to achieving things. But that's sort of inner game. What do you want your team to be like? I had a moment a few years ago where I said, I want my team to be, proud and grateful to work for us. And then I thought, oh, well, who do I need to be in order to get the team to be like that? And I just wrote down a couple words, and it was like kind, fun, generous. I want to be a kind, fun, generous CEO. This is my last little tip for leaders listening. Write down a couple words, maybe a maximum of 3. How do you want to be remembered as a leader, as a boss, as a manager? And for me, I found that just having those little 3 words on a sticky note on my whiteboard or whatever, they help me make tough decisions. When I have to, do I share this? Do I not share? Well, is it more kind to share it or not to share it? What would a generous CEO do? Am I always kind, fun, and generous? No, sometimes I'm a cranky, stingy, grouch. But it's something to aspire to. And I think leaders need to ask themselves that is who do I want to be for my team? Mm-hmm. Gosh, I've talked probably too much. I want to hear more of your stories, and I want to learn more about the credit union world and how this applies. What are your thoughts as you listen to all this stuff? How does it apply in the credit union world?
So many good things. There's a lot of points where it's like, wow, okay, this is a great way to land. We say something or our research back some of the stuff you were
Yes.
talking about. Albrecht, what's landing with you from priorities, lighthouse, disco ball?
Coach in Hungarian means container or safe space. And so
Ooh.
you talked about your 3 containers, and I think that's a way to keep it safe. But
Hmm.
also there's this communication cascading effect that Patrick Lencioni is known for preaching about, where
Yes.
it can't just stay in strategic planning, but like within 24 hours, we got to go and tell the team about what we learned and tell the team about the
Yeah.
new direction that we're going. And so we got to cascade that communication to be effective. And so that's the kind of place that my mind went outside of just my appreciation for David Hasselhoff as a human being. I think
Oh,
you're right. I
yes.
think there's a fan inside me somewhere there that just can't resist the Knight Rider comment. So there we go. What we got. Oh, also word of the week, platitude. I love that word. It's great.
Oh, yes.
So we'll add that to the word of the weeks.
That's great.
Platitude.
There are so many great similarities between great leaders, great bosses, and great coaches that it comes up a lot, and so then you just think like, what would a great coach do? That's a question we can ask ourselves too. What would a great coach do in this situation? They probably don't run onto the court and take the free throw or lace up their skates between periods. They have to think, okay, what levers can I pull to try to get the most out of the team? And great leaders, I think, figured out some of those levers.
Oh yes, they have.
Where can people find more about you, get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So my website, joelhilchey.com. And if you want to take the free self-assessment, the highly defective boss assessment, you can do that at joelhilchey.com/bosses. And would look forward to hearing from you. Any comments and stories you want to email, reach out any way you want.
Awesome. Sweet.
Love
Joel, thank you for being here. Guys, I hope that today has encouraged you to embrace the Ted Lasso in your leadership. This is the
Ooh.
Credit Union Leadership Podcast, where we inspire current and emerging leaders. Till next time, we'll see you. Wow. That was fun. It's fun to see it because there's a lot of similarities in how we 3 act, yet he's a very distinct personality as well. But what I really want to do, Albrecht, here is I want us to dive into some of the things he said and what did we learn from it, or how did we connect it to the principles we teach in our Vertex leadership program and our emerging leaders leadership program as well. The first thing that really stuck out to me was lighthouse versus disco ball. And the disco ball he talked about has all the little mirrors and all the lights going in different directions. And it's a little light everywhere. Where the lighthouse is, and actually I think the fact that it spins is still a good analogy, but it's one giant light that's lighting the path where everyone knows where are we going and what are we doing, not a faint light. And what this reminded me of, Mike Neal talks about this, and we talk about it a lot too, is but if we're not intentional, we focus with organizational ADD. And this is where we come in and say, this is the most important thing since yesterday. And then we come in tomorrow and we say, hey, I went to this new strategy building session, and now this is the most important thing. Forget that thing we said about the sales. No, we're focusing on service and doing this now. And then they come back and no, this is the most important thing, is providing opportunities for our members. And we're going to focus on business development and just every day. So then your team doesn't emotionally get involved. And it reminds me, in Vertex, we talk about my favorite module is leadership and leading with purpose. And we talk about the importance of having short-term wins. And you put them in bite-sized chunks so people know, all right, this is what we're doing to live out our mission. This is how we know we're getting there. Albrecht, what are your thoughts on that? Or was there something else that really landed with you?
Yeah, so the team scoreboard, this is an idea that probably originated way before Patrick Lencioni wrote it in 2002 in Hierarchy of, I wrote the Hierarchy of Needs. Sorry, 5 dysfunctions of a
Quoting
team.
your own book.
I know. But it replaces this inattention to results to, yeah. It replaces the inattention
everyone can
to
see it. That's why we told
because
him to keep the video on.
Yeah, it replaces the inattention to results because it gives the entire team a handful of KPIs, a handful of things like growth revenue, membership increasing, tangible things that actually help you get to your overall goal as an organization. And it's visible to everybody. It's something that everyone can look at and kind of assess. And the opposite of that is having 17 KPIs, having, what was your percentage in gap? What was your percentage in MRC? What was your percentage in LPP? How many credit cards did you have? What was your year-over-year increase in credit cards? What was your services per new member? What was your service per new share? What was your services per existing share? What's the average length of the membership? What was
So much.
When you get into the weeds, that's just member facing. We're not even talking about how many cards we need to replace through the debit card program, or how many accounts we had to cheat because they had low activity, how many people we had to take from 30 to 60 to 90 to 120 days, and then eventually roll them over to collections and actually list them in the credit report as missing some inquiries with the credit union. I mean, every department has the opportunity to create so many reports, so many lists, so many things that it would make your head spin. And so the spinning lighthouse analogy does work, because it's about keeping your head on a swivel and keeping that mission focused through that central light. I'm gonna say something that could get me fired, but my personal mission statement is to be the light of Christ. What that looks like for the credit union movement and how I help them out is to try to add value, which means every comment that I have, and you'll hear lots of them, or you heard lots of them in the podcast, doesn't always add value. And so I'm trying to be better about, if I'm going to say something, does it actually improve their relationship? Does it actually improve productivity? And as you've heard from many hours of listening to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, there's an opportunity, an area for me to grow in this area. That's what I mean. Just because it's something that we could measure doesn't mean that it's worth measuring. Just because it's something that we could say or focus on doesn't mean it's worth saying and focusing on. So it's that mindful intentionality to kind of narrow it down. I like these 3 containers. I thought that was really helpful for us as we go and help credit unions strategically plan. 100% going to borrow that. 100% if you're going to have me do credit union strategic planning in the next month or so with me, you'll hear that as well. So thank you, Joel, for letting me borrow something from your repertoire.
It also reminds me, talking about 3 containers, he had 4 quadrants. You're picking what are the 3 you're focusing on. And then it reminds me of what Taylor, our CEO, and Mike say, which is, what is the thing that we are going to be the differentiator on, that we're different than everyone? Where are we going to be competitive? And then what are the second 2 or the last 2?
Dominate and compete. Yeah. So
dominate's the
number
biggest
1. Yep. Differentiates number 2, and then compete is number 3.
So it really ties into that as well, which is cool. It's like, all right, which bucket am I putting it in? When you talk about the, what do you call that graph? The punch graph, the scatter board?
Scatter plot as kind of where you're kind of scaling out where different people fall in different categories. And typically there's an ideal point that you want every point in the scatter plot to get to. And that's kind of where I was trying to help him from the data that he's collected. What do these data tell us about where we're at and where we need to go? And I think he did a great job kind of explaining the problem that he's observing and the potential solutions that are out there for managers that might be experiencing the same problems.
Yeah. Albrecht, let's end off with one more thought. What was one more thing we talked about that made you think about our service star trainings and how that applies?
We need fire. I think we need more pyrotechnics in our training. I feel, you know what? I wanted to have a confession session here for the Service Star Credit Union Leadership Podcast audience. I'm sorry that I don't have a wallet that catches on fire, and I am going to work on that. I'm going to get better. This is my personal confession to you. You might see me with a flammable wallet the next time you see me. I'm going to borrow that as well from Joel. So thank you so much for Joel for introducing me to what's possible. What is
you live in Ohio. I know for a fact at Universal Studios in Florida you can buy one.
Okay, well, I
that's
might
a far
get
drive.
Another one. I might get a second, flammable wallet just for the purposes of credit union trainings in the future.
And that would make sense, because we don't want people to burn through their money. We want to help them win financially, get them out of those financial fires.
I'm glad
oh my gosh! Now you got me. Now I'm thinking about buying it.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't see it, but he actually had to undo his lavalier and run and go grab that and set it up for us. So he said he never does it on podcasts. So that was a premiere just for the Credit Union Leadership Podcast.
Yeah, you got something special.
Yeah.
And speaking of something special, we're out of here because
that's a special. We'll see you later on the Credit Union Leadership Podcast.
Interested in submitting a question to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, we want to hear from you. Go in our show notes. We have a link over there, and in that link, it's going to take you to 2 options. You can submit a question written out through through email, or you can submit an audio recording through SpeakPipe. We make it super easy. Go to the link in the show notes, click audio recording. Once you click audio recording, it's going to take you straight to a website where you just press the record button. You've got 90 seconds to submit a question or submit you catching doing somebody do it right. And then you just type in your name and email address, and that's it. It comes straight to us, and we'll take it from there. So you don't need to download anything. You don't need to get any new software. You just go to this website, press record, and click submit, and we're good to go. So go to the link in the show notes. Click if you want to submit a question written out or through audio, and we'll take it from there. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time. Hey, we are on YouTube. We've got video podcasts. So click the link in the show notes. Watch our YouTube video. We're working on how to get videos on Spotify and iTunes, Apple Music, things like that. But what we've learned is that people are 80% more likely to remember something if there's a visual associated with it. So watch our video podcast, comment, let us know how we can be better. Let us be part of your journey. Thank you so much.
An investment in leadership is one that pays dividends in your others. I'm Scott Albrecht, guest on the Credit Union Leadership Podcast and Vice President of Learning and Development. And man, oh man, our upcoming Emerging Leaders course is something that I didn't get as a department manager over several departments in the credit union movement. And the average manager in America doesn't go to manager training until they've been a manager for 10 years on average. We send the average teller to 2 to 3 weeks of teller training. And yet, as a manager, we just give them the keys to the Jeep and we tell them not to break it. Drive it like you stole it. Maybe even prayers and our best thoughts are with you, but no management training. And so Service Star Consulting is here to fill that void with our Emerging Leaders class, where your talent will get topics like effective mentorship, building trust, coaching for performance, leadership hacks, and many more. Join us at our next upcoming cohort. We've got 2 that launch every year. We're so excited about having your talent at the next Emerging Leaders cohort.